People do this all the time, right? You take the second 5 on a team and where would they finish in the Big 12? Let's look at just the 5 transfers coming in. How good would that team be, Nick?
Remy Martin, Joe Yesufu.
Yep.
Jalen Coleman-Lands.
Yep.
Cam Martin and Sidney Curry.
There you go. 5 true transfers, not high school guys, nothing like that. Just transferring from another school, already had played college basketball.
Well, Remy Martin is a good team. I mean, Remy Martin is a bona fide All-American candidate. So that's a really good start at an important position. You got shooting, you got playmaking. That's a top 25 team. Just based off starting 5 alone, that's a top 25 team in the country, right?
I think so.
You think we'll hear any platoon talk from Bill Self this year?
I don't think so. And even if we do, he'd find a different word to use, wouldn't he?
Yeah, probably so. John Calipari retired that one, didn't he? This is Basketball Friends. He's Matt Tait. I'm Nick Schwerdt. And Bill Self has done what is the equivalent to a cannonball into the deep end of the transfer portal swimming pool. KU has 10 newcomers on the team next year, 5 transfers when you include Dylan Wilhite, who is going to be a walk-on from California. That's 10 fresh faces, which seems almost inconceivable when you consider that you only have 13 scholarships to hand out. But these are the circumstances, and Bill Self has said, if you're going to let me do this, that's exactly what I'm going to do. 5 transfers, none bigger than Remy Martin from Arizona State, a 4-year starter who KU fans are probably familiar with because he beat Kansas twice in his Arizona State career. One of the premier scorers in college basketball, 2-time all-conference selection in the Pac-12, 19 points per game each of the last 2 seasons, Matt. There's only one other power conference player who's done that 2 years in a row. Luka Garza, who's been the best player in college basketball the last 2 years. He and Remy Martin, the only players to do that. So when you talk about that addition, that is one that can completely change the outlook of any team, but certainly one like Kansas who expects to be a national championship contender next year.
You needed a lead guard. You needed some quickness. You needed a scorer. You needed some more three-point shooting, and he brings all of that. So I think that, I know KU fans were getting a little nervous and a little uneasy about watching all these other names commit to other schools, but they got the big guy, man. This is a fascinating addition in every way. And I was thinking about trying to put it into context what Remy is, adding Remy. I mean, it just doesn't happen very often. You don't see a guy who has scored 1,700 points in his career go transfer to a blue blood for one more run. I mean, it's just 1,700 points is outrageous. He'll probably pass 2,000 this year for a college career. It's incredible. But to put it in context, this is like Kansas adding Jared Butler or Cassius Winston or Jalen Brunson. I mean, that type of player, those guys are on the same level as Remy Martin. The only difference, those guys all played on teams that were title contenders, and Remy's Arizona State teams were trying to get to the tournament every year. To me, that's the big difference. That may be why you don't view it as, they're adding Jared Butler or Cassius Winston, but they damn near are.
That's a really good point, because I think if Arizona State was even just a 20-win team, if they were an NCAA tournament team like they were expected to be before last season, they were preseason top 25, and they were a really lousy team. And if you go back and watch some of the games that Arizona State played, there seemed to be times when Remy maybe realized the fact that he was one of the best players in the country on a team that wasn't going to accomplish anything that year. And that's got to be frustrating for a guy in his senior season.
Are you talking about the times where he pulled up from like 40 feet?
Yeah, that's probably...
I'm just going to shoot wherever I want to shoot.
That's probably not going to fly in Bill Self's offense, but you know what? There's going to be adaptations to make for anybody who's joining a new team, and it won't be any different for Remy Martin. But he steps in day one, starting point guard. You don't get those guys very often. You're talking about the premier transfer in college basketball, because he entered the portal late. But if you go back to the beginning of the offseason and he threw his name in the hat when everybody else was, I think he would have been the guy at the very top of everyone's wish list, even knowing you only get him for one season.
It's definitely something that is an acquired taste. You got to get used to this transfer portal stuff. But as you mentioned, Bill Self showing that he is very comfortable operating in this space. I'll tell you this much, I guarantee KU fans will feel like it was a good thing if this team ends up making a run to the Final Four.
Because that's what it does. That's what getting a guy like Remy Martin does, is it makes your expectations of competing for a national championship that much more realistic. Remy Martin comes in and provides a shot-making ability that team sorely lacked last season, and that was never more evident than in the loss to USC when KU shot 29% from the field. He's not a knockdown Devontae Graham 40% three-point shooter, but some of the shot quality was lacking, and I think that's going to be different. And if you do sort of refine the shots that you deem to be quality shots, then maybe the efficiency does go up. When you look back to that USC game and the fact that KU, I think, went 5 of 26 from three-point range, you've added to that as well, because about 24 hours after Remy Martin committed to Kansas, KU got another addition in the form of Jalen Coleman-Lands, who will be playing in his seventh college basketball season. He was born almost a year before Svi Mikhailuk. So another seasoned college basketball veteran that fills a position of need, because that is your knockdown spot-up shooter. He is a career 37% three-point shooter, shot 40% from three last year. When you look at this team compared to last year's team, whether or not you think it's tangibly better, they have improved the areas in which they were lacking last year with additions of Remy Martin and Jalen Coleman-Lands.
Yeah, there's no question. There are teams that would kill to start those two guys as their 1 and their 2. KU has that option. Probably won't even happen. I mean, Jalen Coleman-Lands seems like a guy who's a rotation player. His experience is legit. His three-point shooting is elite. It's a nice piece to have, but he's not an automatic starter. He's not a guy you have to count on. He's just a nice piece, a bonus piece. But I got killed. I talked to him when he on the day he committed, and I got killed on Twitter for pointing out his maturity. People were like, of course he's mature. He's 30. He gets it. He's coming here to play team basketball. He's coming here to be a part of something bigger than he's ever been a part of. He just wants to help. If that means playing a little defense, he'll play a little defense. If that means knocking in 3 3-pointers a game in the 10 minutes he gets, he'll let it fly. Almost a luxury, right? Like a embarrassing luxury. You don't even need this guy, and you still talk him into coming down and joining the band for a year.
And it's funny you call it a luxury, because legitimately it is, now that you have one more player on your roster than scholarships you have allotted. You're still waiting on pro decisions from Ochai Agbaji, Jalen Wilson, and Remy Martin, who's still going through the NBA draft process. And I think the natural conclusion to draw from going out and adding Jalen Coleman-Lands when it felt like you were sort of set and ready for next season is that Ochai Agbaji is going to keep his name in the draft. These guys have until July 7th to make that decision. I would agree that my natural inclination is that, yeah, this guy might be leaning towards staying in the draft. But I also think it's incredibly early to assume that he's made a decision. They haven't even went through the draft. I mean, the NBA is still in the playoffs. They haven't done interviews. They haven't done workouts with NBA teams. They haven't done the combine. So it seems like it would be a little early to think he's made that decision, unless you assume it was a foregone conclusion that he was never coming back in the first place.
Yeah, I've heard it both ways. I mean, and from some crazy places. I've heard he's definitely leaving. He's definitely staying. Everything in between. It is too early to know, and that's okay. It would be ridiculous for anybody to rush him into a decision. But I think the thing that makes sense here is that because KU doesn't know, because Self doesn't know, because they're not sure what the decision will be on any of those guys, they do have to continue to build the best team they can build. And that's what they're doing. Talking to Remy the other night, did not sound like a dude who's even thinking about the NBA. I mean, he's going to go get feedback. That's obvious. He said that, but he doesn't sound to me like he wants to do anything other than play at Kansas next year. And so I think people should feel good about that being likely. I think people should feel good about Jalen Wilson coming back. Ochai, flip a coin.
Yeah, I think Bill Self's probably asking the same questions that everybody else is. What are we going to do? How are we going to make room for all these guys if everybody wants to come back? Because you can't sit around and wait till July 7th if you're planning on building a national championship caliber roster. Like, you have to go out and make your team as talented as you possibly can and figure it out later. So if that means that Jalen Wilson and Ochai both want to come back and all of a sudden you're one over the scholarship limit, you're going to get creative and find a way, right? You're going to find a way to make it work. You're going to welcome them both back and say, guys, we'll figure the rest out. And honestly, there may be guys on the roster who are going to look at their situation and say, all right, well, I thought I was going to play 15, 20 minutes a game. Now it's looking like I'm going to play 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes a game. I'm going to go to this other school that was calling me and promising me a starting job, because you're not going to have 12, 13 guys on the roster who all expect to play valuable minutes. Like, guys are going to start doing the math in their head and maybe look for a backup plan.